If you are watching this podcast, it's because you are either in the middle of a divorce or perhaps contemplating a divorce, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal that the reason I started this podcast is I wanted to help. I know that of which I speak. When I went through a divorce that ended up costing me $450,000, I was desperate to get answers. I was like most kind of normal people, and one thing I don't do on this podcast, I'm not casting aspersions on my ex-spouse or any ex-spouse. Both spouses involved in a contested divorce in many ways are the victims of the divorce machine itself. Now, as we'll discuss in this, sometimes your spouse simply wants to be the victim. They want this divorce machine to cause as much damage as possible. That's the truth. But that's not the point here. The point here is what I wanted to do on this podcast was to help people through this process. But also, more importantly, I want to change divorce in America. Divorce in America is appalling. It is appalling. The damage that divorce in America does is appalling. I know I've said appalling 3 times, but I should probably say it 10. The divorce process as it exists in America is set up to destroy people's lives. It is. What you are embarking upon or what you're about to be involved on or involved in is a war. I mean that as in warlike. I mean as a war. People die during divorce. The incidents, I looked this up this morning, the incidents of suicide and domestic violence increased 27% in the first quarter after a divorce. Life and death issues are decided based upon divorce and the divorce process. This is a big deal. Lives fundamentally change because of divorce. The truth of the matter is that if you enter a divorce and it's a contested divorce, meaning spouse 1 and spouse 2 both have lawyers and they're both going to argue about who gets what. If you have marital assets of $250,000 and you enter a contested divorce, 20 months later, you will leave that marriage, you will settle your divorce, number 1, and when you settle, you will have marital assets of 0. 95% of you will have assets of 0. Not my facts. Those are statistics from a study in 2023. The divorce process is set up, the divorce machine is set up to gut you and your family financially. It is. It also has the unintended consequence of creating horrible damage emotionally and psychologically between the spouses. Again, as I always tell, I do divorce coaching. I tell my clients on an ongoing basis, 4 years ago, you loved that person. 10 years ago, you loved that person. Let's dispense with the drama and the meanness and the animosity, and let's figure out a way to get this done. But feeding animosity, feeding anger, feeding hurt feelings, that's what goes on now in the divorce process. That's what it's set up for. You guys have to learn that. You have to understand that those are the realities of what goes on in divorce, and you can do something about that. You can do something about that. And that's what this podcast is about. It's also about helping people to move on. The way the system is set up is there's nowhere for you to go. They want you to fight. They need you to fight. The truth of the matter, here's one thing that I say to people all the time, and people don't understand it. What you have to understand first, when you're starting the divorce process, what you need more than anything are facts. You need to know the facts. You need to know what's going on out there. What happens here? What happens there? What do I have to anticipate? What do I have to be concerned about? Getting those facts will put you in a position of deciding, or at least not participating in this war that the divorce machine creates. It's that simple. If you want to positively impact the divorce process, you have to be your biggest advocate. Everyone you meet in the divorce process, the judges, your divorce lawyer, your spouse's divorce lawyer, the court appointed guardian ad litems, the court appointed experts, the bailiff who walks you into the court, all of those people, every single one of them needs you and your spouse to agree to spend every penny you have so that they can stay employed. Their jobs, their livelihoods are dependent upon you all spending all of your money. Think about that. There's no one, except on the divorce podcast, like and subscribe, by the way, there's no one that's going to tell you the truth who is involved in the divorce process. Your lawyers won't tell you the truth. Your spouse's lawyers won't tell you the truth. The judges won't. None of them will tell you the truth until you can't pay them any more money. That's just the reality. That's what you're walking into. Don't believe this nonsense about divorce is going to resolve this, and it's about this, and it's about that. That's not true. The only thing your divorce is about, as it relates to the divorce lawyers, as it relates to the divorce judges, as it relates to the court-appointed experts, the only thing that those people want from you is your money. Don't believe me? Call a divorce lawyer and ask him, hey, can you give me some advice for free? They will say, oh, there's self-help classes that you can take. You can do this, you can do that. No one in the divorce process, not the judge won't even talk to you, by the way. Nobody will give you advice for free. But if you're paying them, if you're paying the lawyers, they'll give you all the advice you want. They'll talk to you. They'll send you emails. They'll send you texts. They'll do all of that as long as you're there, as long as you are paying them. And by the way, it's not just you paying them. Your spouse, if you are represented in most states, your spouse is entitled to be represented. So you and your spouse, and by the way, your children are paying not one, but two divorce lawyers. And those divorce lawyers are there doing nothing more than telling you how offended you should be and how much you should dislike your ex-husband or your ex-wife, and telling you how much better off you would be by going to court, and you've got to contest it and you got to do all these things. And you're so right. And you're such a victim as long as you keep paying them. But when you stop paying them, they are not your advocate anymore. They then want you and tell you to settle your case. This whole podcast, this whole process that we're proceeding against is set up to change the divorce system. Here's a fact, another fact that they will never tell you. 99% of divorces settle. 99% of divorces settle, but they settle after you and your spouse have spent all of your money. They settle after you and your spouse have disparaged each other and gotten angry at each other and lost all respect for each other. They settle after the divorce machine has caused unlimited damage to you and to your family. They settle after you have nothing left. It's the truth. We can change that, but here's the crazy thing, and here's the empowering thing. That can all change if you have information. You wouldn't, if someone came to you, but divorce, by the way, divorce is the only thing in which you will agree to participate with no idea with respect to how much that participation is going to cost. If someone said, hey, I want to sell you a car, and you said, great, how much is it? And they said, oh, I can't tell you. You would say, well, then I can't buy your car. Divorce, on the other hand, says, oh, you should buy this car. And you say, what kind of car? Well, I can't tell you what kind. Well, how much is it going to be? I can't tell you how much it's going to be. When can I get the car? I can't tell you when you can get the car. That's what the divorce machine tells you. That's what your lawyer tells you. That's what your spouse's lawyer is telling your spouse. That's what the judge will tell you up until you're out of money. And when you're out of money, then they'll tell you to settle your case. They'll tell you to buy that car. But guess what? You don't have any money left. And of course you can't buy the car because you're broke. And of course you can't buy the car because any down payment you had is gone. That's what happens. That's how the process works. And a perfect example of that is this. I want to show you this. Maybe you've seen this. Angelina Jolie is, quote, exhausted after reaching a divorce settlement with Brad Pitt, her lawyer says. Again, I'm not getting into, I don't care, male, female, husband, wife, it doesn't matter. Both people, when you get put into the divorce process, both spouses are sensibly just turned into animals in many, many ways. This divorce ended. This Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie divorce ended 8 years. 8 years they were getting divorced. I have from a very good friend who is very involved in the divorce process in LA. She says that Brad Pitt spent at least $8 million getting divorced. $8 million. And then she says, but keep in mind, he probably also, because he has more money, picked up the cost of Angelina Jolie's lawyers, plural. And so that divorce cost between 15 and $20 million. 15 and $20 million. And it took 8 years. 8 years. And guess what? It settled. It settled because people were exhausted. That's the whole system. If Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie get pulled into that, you don't think you do? That's how it works. It's how it works. In this case, they probably had more money to spend, but she was exhausted. And again, I'm not disparaging anyone. I bet they both were exhausted because the system is set up to exhaust you. The system is set up to make you fight and fight and fight. And then, lo and behold, maybe we should settle. Sure, of course you should settle. Of course you should settle. What's funny about this this divorce is the Angelina Jolie's lawyer's quote is saying, but it's not over. It's not over. I started this podcast is sponsored by AIDivorceCourt.com. AIDivorceCourt.com. My business partners and I started this company 2 years ago when my $450,000 divorce had finally ended. And one thing I realized was this whole thing is a scam. They were able to I couldn't get my ex-wife to participate in a settlement discussion because her lawyer wouldn't tell her the truth. Once you are able, the system relies upon keeping you in the dark about the facts. AI Divorce Court gives you the answers to questions like, how much is your lawyer going to charge in fees for the whole divorce? How much are you going to get in child support? How much are you going to get in maintenance? How much are you going to pay in property settlement? Will there be any money left when you're done? And we charge $49. AIDivorceCourt.com sponsors this podcast. We're not here to make a bunch of money, but it's important that we needed a vehicle to direct people to. Before you get divorced, or when you're in the middle of the divorce, you have to have information. Once you realize it, by the way, on average, for example, if you're going to do a contested divorce, you're going to spend about $75,000 in attorney's fees. Did you know that? You did not. because your lawyer didn't tell you that, and your spouse's lawyer didn't tell you that. And that's just your attorney's fees. Your attorney, your spouse's lawyer is getting attorney fees too. The whole point of this podcast and the point of AIDivorceCourt.com is to give you information so you can take control of your life. You have to be your advocate. I'm telling you, you have to be your advocate. Go to AIDivorceCourt.com. Get the numbers. Go ask your lawyer. Is this going to cost me $78,000 in attorney's fees? Ask your lawyer. How much it says I'm going to get $3,000 a month in child support. Hey, that would be fine. Let's just do that. It says, by the way, that I'm going to get $1,200 a month in maintenance. Hey, that would be enough. Let's just do that. Do you see the point? The point of AI Divorce Court and the point of the Divorce Podcast is to empower you. Empower you. AI Divorce Court, we use quantum computers. I said, listen, this information, all of these numbers, they're based upon formulas. We took quantum computing and we put together an algorithm and said, tell us what the results are going to be. And it does it instantly. The entire divorce process, the entire family law process can and should be done by quantum computers, by artificial intelligence, because they give you the answers, and they give you the answers without bias, and they give you the answers for nothing, $49. This is the point, is that if you want to take control of your life, if you want to leave your divorce with money, if you want to leave your divorce without hating your spouse, without your children being, by the way, it's sad in the Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt divorce. One of the causes of one of the results is that Brad Pitt's youngest daughter, Shiloh, I think, has now also, as part of the divorce settlement, filed a pleading saying, I want my dad's name taken off my birth certificate. That is one of the costs of divorce when you stick mothers and fathers into these combative situations, is the kids are almost always alienated. That, again, is what should be avoided. Your divorce, the whole point of this podcast is to get people to settle your divorce. Put on your big boy pants and put on your big girl pants and say, hey, we're not getting along right now, and we're probably not going to get along, but let's not spend every penny we've saved and earned on a bunch of lawyers who don't give a shit about us. You can settle your divorce. You can settle your divorce for next to nothing. You just need information. You can do it. Now, here's the caveat, by the way. If your spouse doesn't want to settle it, then you're going to be dragged into this situation. You're going to have to get a lawyer. And again, my goal on this podcast is not to disparage my ex-wife, but we could not. I went through 3 lawyers, and I'm I'm an experienced lawyer myself. I went through 3 lawyers. They would not, my ex-wife would not, we'd said, how much can we settle this for? They would not give us a settlement number. If your ex-spouse wants to destroy you financially and destroy your family financially and cause untold damage, he or she can do that. They can just have a contested divorce. But that doesn't mean that you should not arm yourself with the knowledge about what it's going to cost, what's out there, how much is child support going to be, how much is maintenance. Those are the only things that go on in a divorce: child support, maintenance, custody. Your lawyers will try to get you to fight about custody, and you shouldn't. I'll give you an example. The $250,000 marital asset example that the study came out and said 95% end with 0. If you and your spouse decide and do the smart thing and settle your case yourself, here's how that plays out. You get $125,000, your spouse gets $125,000. I know what people are going to say. Oh, but I'm entitled to more. Really? How about 0? Those are the realities. You could settle your divorce in that typical scenario with $250,000. Say there's $200,000 in equity in your home and $50,000 in retirement accounts. You could settle your divorce and you could have $125,000 and your spouse can have 125,000, and your divorce can be done in 30 days. And everything would be exactly as it is or as it will be if you have a contested divorce and spend 2 years, 3 years, or in Brad Pitt and Jolie and Angela Jolie's case, 8 years. You're going to settle your divorce. You can settle it before you spend every penny you and your family have earned or after you've spent every penny. Take control of your life. That's what this podcast is going to be about. The first thing you have to do is take control of your life. Get the facts and understand what's before you or what you are currently involved in. Once you do that, you're better positioned to make better decisions. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. And you can do this. You can do this.